Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Sanctuary. It is week 11 and I'm back to walk you through some must plays for the Fantasy Gameday app. I'm going to talk you through 2 players at each position and those all important captain picks to make sure you're setting the best lineup to help you bring home some cash this weekend. Before we dive into it, remember, if you've not downloaded the Fantasy Gameday app, you can go ahead and do that right now on the App Store or Google Play. If you enter the code TFS23 when you deposit, when you enter that first lineup, you will then get a second free entry and an opportunity to win some cash prizes. So let's dive straight in. The captain pick. The highest priced player on the slate, Tyreek Hill. It's hard to go and pay £8,000 to go and put a player like that in your lineup, but averaging 24.9 points per game. Interesting matchup against the Raiders. Yes, they've been fantastic for 2 weeks and have back-to-back wins, but now they've got a new test in Miami. Decent over-under, and I think that if you can, perhaps get in a couple of enablers across the lineup to enable you to pay up to Tyreek Hill, it could be an option that certainly pays off. My favourite captain pick, though, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's getting it done. As you can see, 21.3 points per game, 31.1% target share. The guy just gets volume. He's got a really interesting matchup against Chicago. Similar over-under to Tyreek, but I just think that this Detroit Lions offense could feast against the Chicago secondary that's got holes, that's struggling. And I think the fact that Amon-Ra St. Brown playing over 50% of his snaps from the slot means that he should be able to move away from that. Johnson, the Bears second corner that is, largely plays on the outside and is an absolute stud. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown should get enough that he could be a very intriguing captain pick this week. At the QB positions, I've got 2 players. There's no great elite options with the likes of Mahomes and Allen, obviously not available unless you want to pay huge amounts of money. Geno Smith, £5,200. Interesting matchup against the Rams, who we know that their secondary is young, got holes and can kind of get after. Geno Smith's starting to put it together. He's been very inconsistent, but there's huge regression due within this offense, and I do think that there could be some turnaround in the red zone. DK Metcalf's massively underproducing his touchdown numbers, and we could also see the same for Geno Smith. Sam Howell, the guy's just been producing week in, week out. It's a slightly tough matchup with the Giants. I think that the Giants are going to be so bad that the Commanders could get up early, but we've seen Eric Bieniemy in this Commanders offense. They like to pass. Sam Howell's leading the league in passing yards and passing attempts. So he could be a guy that even if the Commanders get up, he's still going to be able to run the ball. And he's just producing consistently at 5,600. Nice stackable options. Really intriguing player to go and get in that lineup this week. At the running back position, I think there's 3 main players that I'm targeting. 2 of them are on the screen, and then Brian Robinson is the third. I love his matchup, as I said, with the Giants. I think they could get up early and he could really feast. He's been fantastic in kind of good game scripts, and I'm expecting this to be another. But the 2 guys, James Conner, massive over-under against Houston. Yes, 11.1 points per game. I think that undersells what he's doing. They've brought in Michael Carter, and maybe that's why he's priced so cheap. But I think this is a guy that's going to get 60-70% of the workload, plus rushing attempts, plus the receiving work. I think he's an easy play. At 12 points, which is about what he's averaging, he's 3 times his price, which is all you need. And I think James Conner's ceiling is so much higher than 12 points. And then Aaron Jones, this Chargers defense is absolutely abysmal. Aaron Jones is the best player on the Packers offense, and I think that they know that, and I think they're going to try and feed him the ball because this is a really important game for the Packers to win, because if they don't, that's kind of season down the tube, and they're moving on to next year. At the wide receiver position, we've got DJ Moore. Seems criminally priced. He's the player that I've got the biggest discrepancy in terms of my projection versus what he's priced. I'm projecting him over 4 times his value this week. Averaging 16 points per game, but all importantly, Justin Fields is back, and we know that Justin Fields does good things for DJ Moore, and that Detroit matchup could end up being somewhat of a shootout. So I'm getting DJ Moore in every single lineup I can this weekend. And then the other guy, Adam Thielen, Tom covered it on the Thursday night show. When Frank Reich's been calling plays, he's averaging 20.1 points per game, 11.1 with Brown calling plays. So a matchup against Dallas where you're expecting Carolina going to be behind the 8 ball, going to be throwing to catch up. I think we're going to see a RPO heavy attack from Bryce Young and get the ball in Thielen's hands as much as possible. At the tight end position, look, Dalton Kincaid is a must start. He's my highest projected tight end on the slate, but he's priced down at £3,600. The Jets are abysmal against tight ends. I say this week in, week out, and Dalton Kincaid's played over 75% of snaps the last 3 weeks. He's a must start, and I wouldn't be surprised to see his ownership up above 50% this week. The other guy, if you want to pay up a little bit more, Trey McBride, better over under, interesting matchup, has been the tight end 2 in fantasy points since Zach Ertz went on to IR. Trey McBride feels like a plug and play. It's just that Dalton Kincaid has got such a nice matchup and is cheaper that I'm going with Dalton Kincaid over McBride. Is there someone you disagree with? Is there any of these players that you're not putting in your lineup? Or who are you putting in your lineup? Remember, use that code TFS23 for that second free entry. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, and give me your thoughts on who you're playing in the comments below.